There was a really small traffic circle or roundabout that I remember from growing up that was like outside of a Target near my house. And nobody had a single clue of what to do with it. People just drove straight over the middle, thinking that it was kind of just there for fun if you wanted to.
No, 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 they didn't. No, they did not. Really? How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be checking out 8 surprising differences between the UK and the USA that aren't obvious. That is correct. So, a lot of people think of the US and the UK sharing a lot of similarities, which they probably do. But evidently, there's a lot of differences too, which we all know that, right? But this video is going to highlight evidently 8 surprising differences. Not just regular differences, but surprising ones, right? So, the original channel is called Girl Gone London. You should probably go check out the channel. Links to the original video will be in the description section down below. As always, down there, drop a like and a comment while you're down there. That would be appreciated. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and figure out what these differences are.
And nobody had a single clue of what to do with it. People just drove straight over the middle, thinking that it was kind of just there for fun if you wanted to.
I don't know what that means.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm an American who's lived in England for almost 10 years, and today I am going over 8 little-known differences between the UK and the US.
All right.
So I've gotten some positive feedback on my other videos about the differences between the UK and the US, but a lot of the things that people often talk about are pretty obvious. We know that we drive on the different side of the road here, and you know, some basic language that people might use here that we've heard in the US in terms of like British movies and TV shows. But I really enjoy talking about the little nuanced things that you might not have realized are different. So if you are interested in more UK versus US information or information about living abroad in the UK from somewhere else in the world, definitely make sure to subscribe. That's how you'll get new videos and know that I've posted more.
That is correct, guys. Make sure you subscribe to her channel if that's what you're into. Subscribe to my channel too. That would be awesome.
So the first difference between the UK and the US that people often don't talk about is that the keyboards are actually different. So the UK keyboard doesn't have, it has the letter keys in the same exact places, but the UK keyboard is going to add in a pound sign, which we don't have in the US. Funnily enough,
we have a pound sign. It's Shift 3. Yeah. If you hold Shift and hit 3, that's a pound sign, or the new term hashtag.
my UK keyboards do actually have a dollar sign as well. And there are also a couple of other things that are in different places depending on the keyboard. Like the at key too is sometimes in a different place, and like the quotes key.
We have a dollar sign key. It's Shift 4. Yeah, I'm looking at my keyboard right now. And the at sign is Shift 2.
I had no idea that they were different in this sense when I first moved to the UK. And I remember being in the computer lab in the university I was studying at, and it was so frustrating because every time I would go to type a particular key or symbol, it was always the wrong one. So that is the first difference that people might not mention. If you buy a laptop in the UK or a keyboard in the UK, some of the symbols are in different places.
Okay, so it's not, so you're not saying that they're just not there, they're just in different places. I was going to say, because we do have a pound key and we do have a dollar sign key. It's right in front of my face. Although, to be fair, I bought this keyboard off like Temu or something, so it probably came from China, but I'm pretty sure it's a US-based keyboard. Like, it looks pretty standard to me.
Okay, the next difference has to do with eggs. So let's first talk about the fact that in the US, we are most used to seeing white shelled eggs. In the UK, you're mostly going to find brown ones. Now, the other thing that kind of goes along with this is in the US, we store eggs in homes and in the grocery stores or
in the fridge. Yes, I actually did a video reaction on why I don't remember the name of it, but something about like why US eggs are illegal in Europe, or like vice versa, something like that. I'll try to remember to put a link up over there in that corner somewhere for that. Very interesting video, but it explains why there's differences and why our eggs are illegal to be sold in Britain and vice versa, or Europe in general, I think.
Supermarkets in the refrigerated section.
Yeah.
In the UK, you will not find the eggs in grocery stores in the refrigerated section. This is something that completely throws you off guard when you first move here and don't know what to expect it, because you go up and down the aisles of the refrigerated section looking for eggs and wondering like why the supermarket doesn't have eggs. And then you find them like normally next to the bread in some of the supermarkets I've been into. There's also other places, depends on the store. But I was so shocked the first time I found the eggs unrefrigerated next to the bread. And the reason for this is there are different processing techniques from the farm to the grocery store, depending on the country. They leave on the protective layers here in the UK that basically means that there is little chance of the bacteria or something going wrong with the egg not being refrigerated. In the US, there's a really intense like washing system that actually strips the eggs of this protective coating, which means that it then is safer to leave them in the fridge. I'm not completely up to date on different food processing techniques, and so I'm not saying one is better than the other, but the countries do it differently. And because they do it differently, it means that the eggs can be stored or have to be stored in different ways. We actually store some of our eggs like on the counter and some of our eggs in the fridge, which I don't really know why we do that here in our house. But if you go into a British grocery store, do not look for the eggs in the refrigerated section.
Well, if it's your house, then why don't you know why you put some of them in the fridge, first of all? Like, it's your choice. It's your house. Unless your husband or wife or whatever, you know, whoever it is does it, you know, without you knowing. But yeah, I'm still kind of shocked about that too. Like, I did watch the reaction to it and it did explain it in the video, but it's still just really crazy to me because my entire life I've grown up, you know, the eggs are in the fridge. Like, that's just how it works around here. But yeah, and I'm not up to date on food processing techniques either. So just like she said, you know, I can't really say one way or the other what's better. Um, it's just so vastly different. It's just crazy.
The next difference has to do with couponing culture. So if you've lived in the US or you know about the US or you've seen the show on TLC like Extreme Couponers, you might know that in the US, we are a very coupon driven society when it comes to consumerism.
And I think that just depends on the person. A lot of people are not that way. Some people are. I've never watched that show that she's mentioning, but I have heard of it.
So we just always like a coupon. We always like getting a deal, and it's not just like at the grocery store when something is naturally on sale, but we clip coupons. So different brands send out coupons. So you might get like two.
I think that's actually more of like back in the day when people would have magazines and stuff. The clipping, you know, cutting coupons out isn't really a huge thing now. But again, she's been living there for almost 10 years, she said. So, you know, times have changed a little bit since she's been here in the United States, but coupons are definitely a thing. Everybody loves to get a deal for sure.
So different brands send out coupons. So you might get like $2 off certain brands at any store that you go to. And so a lot of people in the US are used to like bringing their coupons to the checkout counter and getting deals. People get like their entire grocery shopping cart for very little money. This is a whole thing that people spend their time on doing.
I wish it was like that, but I don't know. I don't know where they're getting all their coupons from. You know, sometimes you do go into the store and they'll have like a store catalog or like a store, you know, it'll show you like the deals coming up that week or whatever. Not a lot of stores do. Aldi's does for sure. And there is sometimes, you know, coupons in there, but it's not really, I feel like that's something that's not really like a huge thing anymore in the digital age, as much as it used to be. But again, she hasn't lived in the US for almost 10 years. So she's probably going by 10 years ago, which it definitely was more prevalent at the time.
And just as a society, we are used to the idea of coupons. Here in the UK, really not the case. There are deals on things. You might go into the grocery store and something is marked down, or there's like a clearance sticker on it, or there's just like a natural promotion that the store is running.
And I feel like that's how it is lately here. And more so, instead of more so like the coupons, it's more like you just go in, and if you have like your store card, like Kroger's, for instance, you get like a little Kroger card. It's the size of a credit card, and you scan it, and then you get like points or something that you can use. Kroger has a gas station, so you can use like the points to get like 10 cents off a gallon of gas, for instance, if you get so many points or whatever. But if you have your Kroger card, sometimes you get a better price. It'll say like, hypothetically, $2.99, right? But if you have your Kroger card, it'll be like $2.79 or something, more so than the coupon thing. So I think that is something that's actually pretty similar with Britain nowadays. But again, maybe 10 years ago it was different. I do remember coupons being a bigger thing back in the day.
But the idea of like a coupon book definitely is not in the UK. You wouldn't really clip coupons. Like, I'm trying to think of instances where I've had to present anything to get a deal.
I haven't seen a coupon book in forever, but sometimes you do get the coupon and you do have to scan it. It's got a barcode when you go purchase your items or whatever, and then you get the discount that's applied to it.
Trying to think of instances where I've had to present anything to get a deal. Like, there might be, but in general, the couponing culture of the US is not replicated in the UK. And the idea of like buying a book specifically full of coupons to use at various places, 100% not a UK sensibility.
I don't know if that's still a thing. I do remember the coupon books back in the day. My grandma used to get them sometimes. You'd buy the book, and supposedly, hypothetically, you spend like $20 on it, right? You might get like maybe $100 worth of discounts if you use all the coupons. I don't know. I don't really know if that's a thing anymore. And if it is, I don't know. Let me know if you guys are American watching this. Is that still a thing? Because I feel like that's kind of died out.
Another difference are the places that people travel to. So it goes without being said, different countries are going to be closer or further to different destinations. Obviously, in the US, I think we mostly travel within the country.
Yeah.
And when we do travel outside of the country, popular destinations would be Canada, Mexico, and Western Europe, so coming to the UK. In the UK, people do travel to the States. Also, European travel is popular, but there are places that a lot of people have traveled here that I have never met anybody who had been there before in the US. Places like Thailand. It's really popular here to travel to Thailand.
Highly Combustible Reacts actually was living in Thailand for a while. I don't know that it's like a huge travel destination for Americans or whatever, but some people do go there.
Places like Thailand. It's really popular here to travel to Thailand. It's a beautiful country, really cheap, and if you take a survey of kind of your neighbors or your friends here in the UK, somebody is gonna know somebody who's been to Thailand, who's gone to Thailand, or who has a trip planned. In the US, this is definitely not a destination that's really on our cultural radar in terms of, being able to take a poll and easily finding someone who has gone to Thailand. There are other countries like that. I think I've met more people in the UK who have gone on vacation or holiday to India than in the US, and just some other like Asian destinations as well. And again, this is down to differences in geography and how close or far things are, as well as just the fact that, again, a lot of Americans, if they're going to travel abroad, they're coming here to the UK or somewhere in Western Europe. Here in the UK, they're going elsewhere. So that was another difference I noticed in terms of being able to chat to people about their vacations and where they had been. On the topic of vacations, let's talk about travel insurance, because this is another difference. And a lot of people that I've talked to in the UK don't realize the lack of travel insurance knowledge or culture in the US. Not that travel insurance is like a culture, but as a culture, we don't really get travel insurance.
Well, we don't travel much. So that's probably a lot of it, but yeah.
A lot of people haven't even heard of travel insurance. I am pretty sure I had not heard of travel insurance before I moved to the UK. Here in the UK, and I think in a lot of Europe, it's like you go on a trip and you get yourself some travel insurance.
I have heard of it only by doing these reaction videos though, but before doing reaction videos and learning about all this stuff on YouTube, I have not heard of it either.
It's just considered a standard part of going on vacation or going on holiday, as they say in the UK. that is definitely not a thing for Americans. And I was looking at some articles about this and some hypothesis about why this could be. Certain things of Americans are so optimistic, so we think that nothing is going to go wrong, even when we should plan for it.
We're invincible. Nothing can hurt us. Of course, I'm joking.
Things like, again, a lot of Americans are only taking trips domestically, so even though it does make sense, something could still go wrong from your trip to Texas to Montana. We don't really think of it in terms of a risk. Obviously, people do think of it more when they travel abroad. So in the UK and in Europe, when it is much more popular to leave your country, then that kind of comes into play more. And it's just something that in the States, people do get it. I'm not saying that it's not a thing. I'm just saying that it is definitely not as popular or considered a necessity in the way it is in the UK. The next difference has to do with banking, and I talked about banking in another video, but I want to talk about these card readers.
Card reader? I thought she was pulling out a calculator. So, okay, so it's a card reader. Do people just pay people instead of like, so if you want to borrow some money off somebody or you got to pay some money to somebody, instead of giving them cash, you just swipe their card? Is that a thing?
So this is a device from Barclays, which is a personal card reader. So if I were to log into my Barclays account, which I actually don't have anymore, and this is an old one, but I think you can use them across banks anyway. But it basically can help you log into your account. A lot of accounts nowadays will require a multitude of options, but one of them will be you can log in by putting in some details and using your card in the card reader.
Okay, well, I've seen the card readers that you plug into your phone. Like you plug them into like the USB port on your phone or whatever. I've never seen a standalone one like this. I legit thought she was pulling out a calculator and she was gonna like explain the difference. But she said banking, but then she pulled out a calculator, so I wasn't sure where she was going with it. But then it was clear to me it was obviously not a calculator, it was a card reader.
You click identify, you press your PIN into this personal card reader. It says, yes, that's correct. And it gives you a code that you then put in your online account to let you in.
Okay. So it's like a backup security measure. So less chance you're going to get hacked then, right? So that's kind of like a security key type situation.
We don't have these in the US. We obviously have card readers when it comes to stores having a card reader for someone to pay. But the idea of having a personal card reader is 100% a difference between the countries. Yeah. When I go to log into my US bank accounts, there is no card reader involved. It is not an option. It's not a thing that we are used to in the US.
Does this prevent you from getting hacked as much though? Like, is this a better safety measure? I would assume it is. Because it sounds like you have to log in there, it gives you a code, and then you take that code onto your website or your app on your phone. So it sounds like it's more secure, but what happens if you lose that? Right? Is that the only way you can log in? Like, are you kind of screwed if you don't have that with you, or you're not able to get into your account? Because that could pose a issue, I would assume.
Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about driving on different sides of the road, which I'm not, but I am going to mention another difference between the UK and the US, which is the use of roundabouts. So in the US, I think we call them like traffic circles.
No, we call them roundabouts. We certainly, maybe, I don't know what area of the US that she's from, but around here they do call them roundabouts, and they are a thing. They're more common now than they were 10 years ago when she was last here. Maybe it wasn't so much of a thing when, before she left, so they didn't have like the name roundabouts applied to them or used, describing them as often. But yeah, we do have them here, and they call them roundabouts. They're not as elaborate as that though, that I know of.
Some places, but basically instead of having traffic lights and four-way stops, here all of the junctions, or what we would call intersections in the US, are basically run by roundabouts.
It's not all of them here though. They're not, like, we have them, but it's not like it didn't replace every intersection. Like, we still have the typical four-way stop with either a stop sign or a traffic light. Roundabouts are popping up more often in different places, but it's usually just busy intersections that have a lot of wrecks and stuff like that. Because roundabouts seem to be a little bit safer, I guess. I don't know, but yeah.
and that means that there is a pretty steady, constant flow of traffic. It's obviously not always going to be your turn, but if the traffic is clear, you go. As opposed to the US, where you can all be sitting at like 4 traffic lights and they're all red, and you're like, what is going, when am I going to get to go?
They're usually not all red. Usually it's just a few seconds. Like one will turn red, and then a couple seconds later, then the other side will turn green to let you go. I've never really seen where it's all red. Maybe there was a glitch or something. But yeah, certainly, you know, you can't just go. Like you have to wait. If there's no traffic at all and you physically would be able to go, you're not legally allowed to go if the light's red. You have to just wait for a minute or minute and a half, 2 minutes sometimes for it to turn green, even though there's not a car in sight and you could easily just go. And some people do. It's against the law, technically. If there's a cop that sees you or whatever, you can get in trouble for running a red light. But yeah, roundabouts are a lot nicer because it just keeps everything
that
moving.
Wouldn't happen here in the UK, and a lot of people do think roundabouts are a superior traffic solution. However, I feel like they only make sense in a country that understands what to do with them.
Maybe she's not a good driver. It's not that hard. It's a roundabout. You just, I don't know.
There was a really small traffic circle or roundabout that I remember from growing up that was like outside of a Target near my house. And nobody had a single clue of what to do with it. People just drove straight over the middle, thinking that it was kind of just there for fun if you wanted to.
No, they didn't. No, they did not. Really? And if they did, then what in the world kind of backwards kind of, what town were you in? What is that? What? No. Now, I do remember in one of the towns, that I used to go to all the time, a roundabout popped up maybe about 10 years ago, right? And there was a lot of people that didn't like it. They would talk crap about it. Like, oh, what is this thing? You know, this and that. And my entire thought process was, how in the world do you not understand? It is simple, guys. It is simple. Some people just don't understand. And if they're just driving right over the middle, that is just, I don't understand that. No.
So if roundabouts, and I do know that there are places in the US with roundabouts, but if they were to become more a part of a country's traffic patterns,
it's simple.
Definitely have to do some education for the Americans because we are just not used to that kind of traffic system. I also feel like roundabouts really make sense in a country where you don't have a gridded system.
It makes sense anywhere you put them there. It's a simple concept, and it keeps traffic flowing. I don't understand the confusion. I didn't understand it when people were talking crap about the roundabouts that popped up here. It's just, at first look, you're just like, oh, great, this is awesome. This is an improvement. And then you got those people that's like, you know, confused, but it's, I don't understand. Some people are just simple-minded. They can't think outside the box. They don't have problem-solving skills or common sense, I guess, and they just want to drive over the middle, like she said. I've never seen that, but yeah, maybe a drunk driver. I've heard of that, but not just normal drivers to just drive over the middle. That's just absurd.
The roads are just all over the place, weaving in and out, and so putting in a roundabout, I think, is probably a little bit easier than dealing with in the US, especially where I'm from. Maybe not so much in the Northeast, but in a lot of places in the West and in the South, we have just straight gridded lines that intersect each other, and so
that's the entire United States. Unless you're in a mountainous region, it's just laid out in a grid pattern, and a roundabout at every intersection would be phenomenal. It really would.
Kind of think of the 4-way traffic light system making more sense. And the last difference I have to talk about is the difference between American and British sensibilities about plants and garden center. So hear me out. So Here in the UK, they have what they call garden centers, and this is basically a place that you can buy plants, like garden decor.
We have that here too, actually. And they do call them garden centers. And a lot of them are outside. Instead of in like a greenhouse, it'd be like outside. There's like a field with some different greenhouses. You can go inside the greenhouses, walk through them, get your plants. Some stuff is on display outside. They call them open air garden centers. In fact, there's one in Warsaw, not Warsaw, Poland, Warsaw, Indiana. And that's actually the same town I was talking about with the roundabout that popped up 10 years ago. Everybody was confused at first, but They actually have one, and that's literally the name of it, is Open Air Garden Center.
or gardening supplies, but also there tend to be other things sold there. So having a gardening center, they usually have like a cafe that serves lunch and snacks and
We don't have cafes in ours.
tea. There can also be other things sold within the garden center
That'd be nice,
that
though.
aren't even related, like clothes or something like that. And there is a cultural fascination with garden centers. When we were in lockdown, in the beginning of this whole situation, that was one of the things that were first to open before everything else. Obviously, people could only do stuff outside and they wanted to garden and stuff. But I just thought that was so funny. There is such a cultural love, especially in certain areas and among certain age groups, for garden centers.
Well, in Britain, they do love flowers, I've noticed. So that makes sense.
Now, when you compare that to the US, and the reason I bring this up as a difference is obviously you can buy plants in the US. We would call it a nursery, and
Never
not
heard
for
that.
children, for plants here in the UK.
Never heard that. But again, if she's from the Southwest, I'm from the Midwest, Northern Indiana. There's a big cultural difference. I mean, the United States is huge. You know what I mean? Just like you go, different states in Europe have different ways to do things and whatever. It's the same here. You got different states in the United States and different regions, and they do have differences. Never heard it called a nursery, though.
Nursery is for children, but we would call it a nursery, and that would be to go and buy plants, but that would pretty much be the only thing you do there. And it's more of a get in and get out situation. Obviously, you might explore, kind of walk around a little, but there's usually not going to be anything else to do. It's a place to buy plants.
And that's how the open air garden center is here. Not a nursery, but yeah, there's no cafes, there's no, clothing. There might be farm clothing, like the straw wicker hats, maybe some overalls, gloves, kind of stuff like that. But that's going to be the minimum or the maximum of the clothing options that you would get at a garden center. You're not just going to go there and get like hoodies and t-shirts and stuff.
And there's no sort of cultural love for nurseries. They're just places to buy plants.
Right.
We also have, home improvement stores. So our version would be like Lowe's or Home Depot, but they also have those in the UK. It's called like B&Q is an example of one.
Okay.
So that also isn't really comparable to a garden center. Even though they might have a garden section, they're still not a place that you would go and you could actually meet somebody for coffee. Mostly kind of older people, though no shade to you if you are a younger person who loves garden centers. It's just more of a cultural love and fascination here with garden centers that we don't have in the US. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video on these kind of small...
Alrighty, guys. So I think some of what she's saying is just a bit out of touch, just based on the fact that she's been out of the country for so long. Some stuff is different than what I would experience just based on the region of the United States she was from. I believe she was saying something about the Southwest. But anyways, I enjoyed that. That was a great video. If you guys enjoyed it too, hit like, drop a comment, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads. If you enjoy this kind of content, you don't want to miss out. This is the greatest American Reaction YouTube channel that ever existed. And you guys are the greatest audience that ever existed also. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Have a super fun, awesome day. Bye.